Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Prasajana Ranjanam Yashoda Nandana Prasajana Ranjanam Yashoda Nandana Prasajana Ranjanam Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Questions by King Parikshit, text number 10. Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastitya udhavapya yaya
Apyaya.
muktvatma mayam maisha shete sarva guhashaya sachapi yatra purusho vishvastitya udhavapya muktvatma mayam maisha shete sarva guhashaya sachapi yatra purusho Vishvastityudhavapyaya Muktvatma Maya Maesha Shete Sarva Guhashaya.
Shabhyatra Purusho Vishvastityudbhavapyaya Utvatmamayam Mahesha Shete Savaguha Sheha.
Shete sarva guhashaya.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityubhava muktvatmamayama shete sarvaguhashayah.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityudbhavapyayaha muktvatma mayam mayeshaha shite sarva guhashayaha.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastit yudvabhyayaha muktvatma mayam mayesha shete sarva guhashayaha.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityudbhavapyayaha muktvatmamaya mayesha shete sarva guhashayah.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityubhavapyayaha muktvatmamaya maisha shete sarvaguhashayah.
Really disturbing. Sa, he, cha, also, api, as he is, yatra, where, purusha, the personality of Godhead, Vishva, the material worlds, Sthiti, maintenance, Udbhava, creation, Apyaya, annihilation, Muktva, without being touched, Atmamayam, own energy, Maya Isha, the Lord of all energies, Shete, does lie on, Sarvaguhashaya, one who lies in everyone's heart. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please also explain the personality of Godhead who lies in every heart as the Supersoul, as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. Purport. Undoubtedly, the form of the Lord who was seen by Brahma must be transcendental. Otherwise, how could he simply look upon the creative energy without being touched? It is understood also that the same Purusha lies in the heart of every living entity. This also requires proper explanation. Translation. Please also explain the personality of Godhead who lies in every heart as the Supersoul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. Maharaj, would you like to make a comment for us, please?
The super soul It's the same super soul in all hearts. Every living entity in the material world has Paramatma, super soul in his heart. The same person, same Lord, but different manifestations. And the example is given that there are yogis who can expand themselves into 8 forms. And those forms also do the same things, like a television expansion. You have many televisions in a row, all on the same channel. They're all doing the same thing. But Super Soul, Paramatma, the incarnations of the Lord, the different expansions, they can do different things at the same time. So the Super Soul in the heart of one living entity is guiding him in one way, and the Super Soul in the heart of another living entity is guiding him in a different way. And it's the same Lord. He knows everything. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita. The living entity is residing in each body. What was that verse? And Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Look up that word, that word. Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Yeah.
Shitrigyam chapi mam vidhi sarva shitrishu bharata shitra shitragyayor yanam yat tad jnanam mattam mama. O sign of Bharata, I am also the knower of all the sorry, I'm sorry. It's Bhagavad Gita 13:3. Here I've got it. O sign of Bharata, you should know that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
And the verse before that?
And the one before that is Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
Yes. And then he says, I'm the knower in all fields, in all bodies. So that's the difference. The living entity can be the partial knower of his one body. Like the living soul in one body, he can know the pains and pleasures that are going throughout his body. But he doesn't know the pains and pleasures that someone else is feeling in their body. But Krishna says he's the super soul in all bodies. And it's like there's two masters of the body, of the house. It's like you have a house, you have the person who's renting. So he's renting and he's in charge of the house. He knows the house. He's renting it. But above him is the landlord, one who owns the house. He's also the knower of the house. And he's the supreme knower. So this is how Lord knows everything about us. He is traveling with us. like two birds in a tree. One bird is eating the fruits of the tree, trying to enjoy. That's the living entity. And the other bird, super soul, is waiting for the individual soul to pay attention to him and listen to him, follow his instructions. That is what Krishna, why does he do that? Why does he go with the living entity in every species? Even when the living entity is forced to go down into the body of a germ, super soul goes with him. He's the best friend. There's no friend like super soul, like Krishna. And that Krishna is the same Krishna that's speaking to Arjuna. So it's not that it's a different Lord. It's not that they're different gods. Only one God. But that one God is expanded in all these different features. It's Paramatma. Or as Brahman effulgence, or as his different incarnations, Guna avatars, Manusha avatars, Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, Shakti-Avesh avatars. He expands in all these different Tadekatma avatars. And he's one, yet he's expanded everywhere through his. He knows everything. He perceives everything. He's even in every atom. Andantarasta Paramanu Chirantasta. So you can't say that God doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't care about me. He knows everything about you and me. And therefore, if one wants to surrender to God, he can do it anytime, any place, anywhere, because God's ready. He's waiting patiently. Sarvabhutanam Hridesharyam Tishti Brahmayan Sarvabhutanam Yantra Rudhani Maya. He's directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. He's the Lord in the heart, because actually the living entity cannot do anything without the supersoul. Man proposes, but God disposes. The living entity can desire, but he can't execute anything without the supersouls arranging it. We can't do without the supersoul. And that's why Prabhupada often says, we say we want independence. We want to be independent, but you can't be independent. We can't act even. We can't breathe. There's no question of independence even for a moment. Someone who claims, I'm independent, I don't depend on God. You're dependent on God for every single thing. For air, for the ability to breathe it, you have to have an apparatus. You have to have a brain that can control your breathing. You need oxygen, so many things. There's no question of anyone who claims that he did it all himself. He's taking credit that I built up this big, I have this big kingdom now. I have this big city named after me and all. I made so many movies. I did all this myself. I have money. God didn't help me. He's just a fool. There are many such fools. In fact, they're increasing. But the devotees try to help them by passing Srimad Bhagavatam and trying to explain about the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right. Thank you, Maharaj. So, this shloka reminds me of a shloka from the Bhagavad Gita. It's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 5, where Krishna says, "And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation." And in the purport, Prabhupada, he says, "The Lord says that everything is resting on him. This should not be misunderstood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe." So, I thought that point is very nice, that Krishna creates everything and sustains the universe, but he's not like this Atlas, carrying the world on his shoulders, burdened by this. Krishna is eternally enjoying. So he's all pervading, but at the same time aloof from everything as well. And there's this great example that I like to share that, I heard Prabhupada liked is, upon visiting India, some professor, I believe, he was trying to figure out who the supreme deity was, who God was, and he went to all the temples and he saw, Shiva holding a trident and Ganesh holding an axe and, Hanuman holding a mace and, so on and so forth. But when he saw Krishna, he just saw Krishna holding a flute, standing in like a dancing pose. So this is Krishna. He doesn't have anything to do except for enjoying with his devotees. So Krishna is actually controlled by his devotees' love. Here's the person who is the creator and maintainer of everything and aloof from everything, the supreme renunciate, but he's also controlled by this love of his devotees. Krishna is willing to give himself to his devotees. I'm thinking of this example where, Krishna was having a bout of malice. He was feeling ill, and he said, I need the dust of my devotees' lotus feet so then I can be cured. And only the gopis were willing to do that because they were willing to make any offense to please the Lord. Others feared to make offenses because why would I take the dust of my feet and give it to Krishna? I want the dust of his feet on my head. The gopis are willing to suffer and go through anything for Krishna's pleasure. So this is what we're trying to practice, to emulate this mood of the gopis of making sacrifices for the pleasure of the Lord Shri Krishna, who is everywhere as this. So we've been hearing about this nature, this super soul. So Krishna's always there, just like somebody watching over our shoulder, seeing all of our activities, seeing our how we respond to the different things that come to our life throughout the day, how we're reacting, how much we're pushing, how much we're sacrificing to know Krishna, because this is the only way that we'll actually be happy. But when we turn away from Krishna, for whatever reason, it might be a temporary cessation of our misery and distress, but ultimately it leads in distress, unsatisfaction. The only way to become happy in this life, in life in general, is to connect to the whole, connecting to Lord Krishna. And in this age, this is done through the holy name. This is the only way. The only way for means of deliverance in this Kali Yuga is through the holy name. And Prabhupada, he mercifully prescribed 16 rounds, when originally he wanted his disciples to chant 64 rounds a day. If you chant 64 rounds, that's about 100,000 holy names. There's a statement from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said he wouldn't honor prasadam from anybody who offered it to him if he wasn't chanting 100,000 names a day. So you could see where this 64 rounds comes from. And the reason why I mentioned this is that 16 rounds is the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum. If we can do that and we do it with full attention and focus, that's good. If we can do more, it's better. If we can do more than that, that's even better. Kirtaniya Sadahari. We should always chant the holy name. Not that, okay, now 16 rounds are done. Now I get to do whatever I want to do. We may do other activities in Krishna's service, which is good because when we're serving Krishna, Krishna is absolute. So everything's on the transcendental plane. But specifically, the scriptures mention that the holy name, by chanting the holy name, this is the means for deliverance. So with whatever we're doing, our attraction and our respect, our relationship, rather, with the holy name should deepen. And this is something that we can always think about and really examine. Is what I'm doing giving me more of a taste for the holy name? Or, when I sit down to chant japa, what's going on in my mind? Okay, here we go, another day. Hopefully I'll stay awake. Or are we actually picking up our japa bag with the intent to call out to Krishna? We shouldn't just strut through life haphazardly. And we should have a strong sankalpa, a strong intention, strong desire, so we can set our motivation in the proper line. So we should know this when we're coming into the temple for Mangal Arati to hear the Bhagavatam. When we pick up our japa bag, we should know why, what's driving us to do that. Sometimes we may be really, really tired and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to do this because I made a vow and I'm going to do it for purification. I'm going to do it because I have to. But how long can we go on doing things just because we have to? The whole point is that, we need to open this bottle of honey of the holy name, so you can actually taste the nectar. So you can actually taste it. When you taste something that's good, do you say, oh, and I have to go downstairs and I have to honor this pizza prasada? No, you say, oh, Jai, pizza. So similarly with the holy name, it should be the same way. If we open it up and are really giving ourselves to it, then very quickly this taste should be there. And when the taste is there, this is the driving force. Krishna is there in his name. And Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, came and taught this method himself and experienced the highest forms of ecstasy and had his disciples also do this. You can look at Jiva Goswami. I don't know how many verses that he's written or composed, but the number's like astronomical. And with the number of verses that he's compiled, it's not that that's all that he was doing. He's still spending so much time chanting the holy names. All the 6 Goswamis, I chant 100,000 names, 200,000 names or more, every day. So something that I've realized from time to time is that, I've heard some devotees say real chanting, like real japa, starts after 16 rounds. Why? Because after 16 rounds, you're not doing it because you have to. You're doing it because you want to. When we're chanting japa and we get to 16 rounds, a good indicator is if we're chanting japa nicely and it's purifying us and developing this taste, we should think, oh man, I don't want to stop. Oh, I have the service to do. Oh, I have to do this. I don't want to stop the japa. It's nice. I was just getting into it. So this is the goal, to develop this taste of Krishna consciousness, and this taste will drive us to the spiritual world. It will bring us towards the same devotion, that can be relished by the gopis of Vrindavan, who are willing to sacrifice anything and give anything for Krishna's pleasure. It's said that, on the path to prema, essentially, you're climbing up an uphill battle, a big struggle, especially when you're going through anartha-nivritti. But once you come through anartha-nivritti and you actually develop, a fixed up mentality and actually become attracted to the Lord, after you become fixed up and you develop this attraction, then it's like going downhill. No longer are you trying to run to the Lord and, trying to fight Maya off. You're naturally being attracted to the Lord, so you're naturally being pulled to the Lord. Things are just pulling you in that direction. Everything you're seeing is in relation to Krishna, and it's all blissful. And the quickest way to do that is by really surrendering to the holy name. We should pray to the holy name, that we can become servants to the holy name. This is the Yuga Dharma. How much faith do we actually have in what we hear every day? It should translate directly into how much faith we have into taking the holy name. So, a few thoughts. I tend to take these classes and always talk about japa. I think it's something that's important that we should always talk about, We should put all of our attention in japa, or our practices, our sadhana. Not that we do one activity while we're listening or doing another activity. We should give our whole attention to what we're doing at one time. You can't hear things while you're trying to meditate or think about something else just to get it done or squeeze it in. We should give our full attention and focus to what we're doing, because the amount of full attention and focus that we give to Krishna is the amount of attention that he'll give to us. So does anybody have any comments or questions, thoughts, reflections? Chastisements? All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.